By the time I was done, I got over 200 girls an opportunity. And the night before the conference, we're standing in the lobby and I was talking to some of the just chatting, and they were, one of them, she said, we did not even know about this conference or that we could bring students to it. This is such a great opportunity for our girls. And then she said something that I will never forget. And she's like, hey, could they do this? And I was like, well, how old are they? 4 and 6. And I was like, oh, one of the most important things, though, it was important to me in the books to really clarify and really help like the reader, the children understand, what does this company do? Right? What
Mhm.
do they make? Than her, right? And so a couple weeks later, she texts me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, they just asked me to be the face of the expo." I told them, I told them my situation, and they said,
Appreciate you making the time to come on and talk with me and tell us about your organization and give us a little bit of background on kind of how you got started, maybe like where you're at currently, and then, kind of how you got there. And obviously, overall, how your organization, this one's for the gals, kind of fits into all that.
So my name is Stephanie Hajducek, and I live in a little town called Taft, Texas. It is in South Texas, right outside of Corpus Christi. And in my day job, I am a project specialist for Enbridge. We are developing a new ammonia production plant called Project Yarin, and it is going to be a joint venture project between Enbridge and Yara. And so I do community and stakeholder engagement. So I'm here in the community, helping the community get to know us and what we're doing, why we're doing it, why is it important, how we're doing it, all the different things, and really, again, just creating that relationship with our community. So that's what I do in my day job, and I absolutely love it. It's a great space to be working in, and it's a very exciting time because it is a project that will bring about 200 jobs to this area, and so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
very excited about that. Yeah, and so in my spare time, I I fuel the future of women in industry through my nonprofit called This One's for the Gals. And it literally started from such a small idea that has grown into something that I never ever dreamt that it could. And so I guess really what kind of started, so we are career exploration and workforce development for girls. We focus on construction, energy, manufacturing, and maritime, from skilled trades to STEM. So whether they're looking to go straight into the workforce after high school, maybe they're wanting to pursue a 2-year degree, or maybe they're on a 4-year path, right? They want to be an engineer or get their MBA or whatever that looks like for them. We want to help them explore careers specifically with companies, right down the road, yeah, right in their backyard, and just helping them know there's a place out there for them in that workforce. And so we focus on K through 12, so all the way from elementary school, middle, junior high school, as early as we can, kind of helping create that awareness. And it's been great. Like I said, it grew so quickly. And that small idea that I had was back in October of 2021. And so our family moved to this area in January of 2020. My husband got a new position with a new manufacturing facility that was being built in this area. And so that project moved us here. And we have 3 kids, twin boys. At that time, we're sophomores. Our daughter was in middle school. And so we moved down here, and my husband is an industrial electrician by trade. He grew up in
Mm.
the craft, went straight into the workforce, learned a trade, learned it well, and has done some amazing things just coming from a skilled trade background, right? And so he's worked for, I mean, these awesome, amazing companies. This project that he was on was like one of the largest projects in the world. He's traveled the world. He's done so many different things. And I always tell him, I'm like, you need to go talk to some students and let them know, your path, right?
Sign him
So
up for
so
something.
yeah, yeah. And so he was on this project from the very beginning. They had just broke ground, so he was on early engineering design at the corporate headquarters for a couple of years, right outside of Houston. Moved down here to the area. They were starting, construction, get into commissioning, startup, and so he came over as an electrical supervisor. And fast forward a little bit, he was ready to hire technicians. He was looking for electricians, And, he had a lot of trouble, like, finding qualified technicians here in the area, and, he came home and he's like, "Man, we're having to Zoom interview people, we're having to fly people down for interviews," and so that's really what kind of, like, sparked the conversation. I was like, "Why are we having to bring people in?" This company, they didn't build this facility overnight. We knew for about 5 years they're coming. They're building this large manufacturing facility. They're gonna have with them, they brought 400 jobs for that particular project. What are we doing to help our kids, like, learn about these careers? Again, our boys were sophomores at a high school right down the road, and there was no outreach campaigns, no awareness programs, just nothing helping connect, our students to industry. And so we hadn't been talking to boys, much less girls, right, about any of these careers. And so that's kind of what, kind of kicked off the idea that I had. Now there's a conference that's held in Galveston, Texas. It's called Power Women in Industry. Power stands for pipe fitters, operators, welders, electricians, and riggers. And
Okay.
I attended this conference in 2017. And I remember there being school buses outside, and they had bussed in local high school girls to attend this conference, and they got to hear from women that are out in these roles. They got to talk to employers, education partners. Like, I was like, that's such an amazing idea. Like, at that age, having that opportunity to get exposure to these career paths. And so that was in 2017. And, we're over here in 2021 now. And I just kind of started thinking about that conference, and I at first tried to find something that was maybe similar, that was closer, because it's about a 4-hour drive for us, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything that focused on those careers, and so I just approached my manager at the company that I was working for and just said, "Hey, there's this really great conference. I think it'd be beneficial if we could help our local school district get a trip, make a field trip, take some of their high school students to it. It's similar career pathways that we have here that they'll learn about over there." And my manager thought it was a great idea. He's like, why don't you go talk to the school, introduce yourself, tell them we'll provide some funding and help them make the trip. So I went to the school, and they were like, absolutely, yes. We
Right.
would love to collaborate. Yes. And so they were like, yeah, we'll provide bus transportation. We'll take our girls the night before, stay in the hotel. And, so that response was really great, and our kids are at a different school, literally 15 minutes down the road. And I'm like, "I want the same opportunity for, the girls at our school." And so I just kinda nudged my husband, and I'm like, "Hey, might I be able to contact at your company that might help?" And so I reached out and I just basically said, "This is, what, we're doing for our local high school. Would you be interested in sponsoring yours?" And that response was great. They were like, "Oh, this is a great initiative. We would love to help." And so then I kept going. I was like, "Well, there's another school down the road. There's another industry partner down the road." And initially, my small idea was, again, just getting, 10 to 12 girls with a chaperone, loading them up in our company van and driving to this conference for the day.
Right.
But by the time I was done, I got over 200 girls an opportunity.
Dang.
It was amazing. It was 9 different schools supported by our local industry. Again, I just kept hearing, "Yes, yes, we love this, we love this."
Yeah.
And, yeah, and so even then, though, even at that point, I still just wanted to get, girls an opportunity to go and learn about these careers. Starting a nonprofit was nowhere on my radar. I had always worked in industry, it was just I just wanted this opportunity for them. And so, again, a lot of the schools went the night before. They stayed at the hotel right next to where the, event was being held. It's called Moody
Mhm.
Gardens, so Moody Gardens Hotel. Some of them, took the girls out, had a nice dinner, had them dress up. It was just a great just experience for these girls. And the night before, the conference, we're standing in the lobby, and I was talking to some of the chaperones. So whether, they were a principal, a CTE director, counselors, teachers, just chatting. And they were, one of them, she said, "We did not even know about this conference or that we could bring students to it. This is such a great opportunity for our girls." And then she said something that I will never forget. She said, "Stephanie, you may not realize this, but the majority of our girls have probably never stayed in a hotel before. They've probably never been out of their hometown." And Travis, I like to say that's the night This One's for the Gals was truly born because it was no longer about a conference or a field trip. It's just awareness and opportunity. We see so much generational poverty. Our kids see their parents get by making ends meet and them thinking that that's just life and that's how my life is going to be. And I'm like, that is not life. Those cycles do not have to continue. How can we show them that through a career, again, whatever after high school looks like, maybe you do need to go straight to work. Okay, let's learn a skill. Let's learn a trade. You want to go to get a 2 year? Let's look at some programs. There's scholarship programs, tuition assistance. You want to get that 4 year degree. Again, just helping connect industry to their high schools, middle schools, junior highs, high schools. That's really the gap that I wanted to sit in. And so, decided to start this nonprofit. Had no clue what I was doing. But, I tell people, I'm like, it's just one of those things that started happening, and I just had to keep happening with it. I'm like, I just gotta do it, right? I just gotta do it. And so it's been, very successful. My main goal was to bring an expo to our area. I'm like, "Why aren't we doing something similar?" We're,
Yeah,
have the same industry type jobs here, and so we've done that the last 3 years in a row. It's been great. Now branching out to different areas of Texas. We were down in the Rio Grande Valley last year. We're going to Central Texas this year for our main high school initiative, which is the Expo for high school girls. And then, we have middle junior high school initiative where we're doing these hands-on workshops. We have a really cool electrical workshop. They're making a charging station. They're wiring it up. They're putting it all together. We're talking about electricity. How is it generated, right? All forms, right?
yeah,
All solar, wind, nuclear, everything. We need all the energies, and how does it kind of get to where they plug in their phone and they can charge their phone? It's not magic. It takes a lot to make that happen. And so yeah, so not just talking boots on the ground positions either, I'm like, whether it's again, you want to get out there and put on a hard hat and steel toes, but let's talk about other, career pathways from learning and development, procurement, supply chain, human resources. I mean, gosh, the list goes on and on and on, right? There's so much that helps our industry partners do what they do. And so again,
which
also kind of
one which kinda pathway do you see the most, like, enthusiasm around for these girls, do you think?
the 2 year technical degrees, so like your instrumentation, your millwright, your process tech, those
Yeah,
right there are the ones that I have seen girls get more interested in, and it is really exciting. And I've seen a lot of our industry partners now start internships, apprenticeships, kind of like hiring on, and then you go to school for these days, you come to work for these days, and it's like that really great relationship between our industry partners and our junior college. I also tell girls though, I mean, don't think that that's where you stop, right? Again, whether you learn a trade and go right to work, if you want to continue pursuing a degree, your company will support that, right? The company you're working for more often than not, they have tuition reimbursement programs, and
yep.
there's always that opportunity. I don't want them to just think like, "Oh, this is it." I'm like, "No, the sky's the limit." But it's up to you, right? It's going to be up to you on how far you want to take it. But if you want to go there, they'll help support you.
Yeah, and is it awareness more than anything that is kinda we're saying that the women basically don't know about these industries, but is there some other barrier that is I mean, why would guys kind of more go into it, but not girls?
Right, and, even and that's why I call it This One's for the Gals, and there's no cool story about the name or anything like that at all because, again, when this idea came up, I had twin boys that were juniors at that point, right? And so if
Yeah,
anybody knows, like, boys need the same help, I know because our boys were like, "Oh my gosh, we're about to graduate, what are we gonna do?" But that's why it's called This One is for the Gals.
right.
But yeah, and I think just in general, like, there was no connection between, industry and whether it's boys or girls, right again, right outside your back door. And I feel like the norm, especially in these like smaller rural communities, is kids are like, I can't wait to grow up. I can't wait to graduate and get out of this small town. Because that was my mindset, right? But I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so again, it is that awareness factor. And we concentrate, more on girls because again, I just feel like, thinking of like those kind of positions that are out there when you're passing by these facilities, and thinking, you put on a hard hat, you put on steel toes, and it's a construction job or it's a, manufacturing job. And those have always been, more like more male representation there than female. And so girls
Mhm.
really wouldn't even like think about it, right? And so I
Yeah.
think it's really, again, just that awareness factor and the exposure to it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of jobs in energy or manufacturing, construction that, don't have to be physical,
Mhm.
hands-on, right? So
Absolutely, because that's one of my things when I talk, I do a lot of presentations at schools and talk to girls, share my own story, and, I get in there and I'm like, "Okay, y'all might say, 'Stephanie, this is South Texas. 9 months out of the year, it's 120 degrees outside. I ain't trying to go work out there, you know?
right.
That's okay too. That's okay. If you want to, hey, we wanna help, you explore those careers, but again, there's so many other positions that help keep these companies going, right? And so we do talk about those as well. And I kind of like take some of those main interests and show them how they can apply them, right? Like, oh, you thought maybe you'd want to be a teacher one day. You like helping people, helping them learn. Well, employee learning and development, training. Maybe you're thinking of the medical path, right? Well, so a lot of these companies have their own nurses on staff. They have
Yeah.
occupational safety and health. I had to, this is one of my favorite ones to say. I'm like, y'all like shopping? Now they're like, "Oh, yeah, we love shopping." I'm like, "Hey, they need shoppers,
Procurement and
right?"
logistics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't call them shoppers, but, again, but how can we help them, take their interests and apply them to our industry?
Yeah,
And that's
reframe the conversation.
reframe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, the one thing I was thinking about was you say we do K through 12, right?
Mhm.
And so I was thinking, maybe you could share with us what would the outreach you would do with like elementary versus middle school versus high school when we're talking about like such a large grade level?
And I'll tell you, we're definitely learning as we go, and there's been some things that we put, like, a certain age so, like, for example, our, electrical workshop, we did an event, and it was like a STEM event, and we hosted our electrical workshop, and this one was open to boys and girls, and I think we did, like, ages, like, 6 to 12 and 13 to 18, 2 separate workshops,
Mm,
and for one of the workshops, we had a couple of extra seats open, and there was a mom that passed by, and she had these 2 little bitty girls in little white dresses, they look so cute, and she's like, "Hey, could they do this?" And I was like, "Well, how old are they?" 4 and 6. And I was like, "Oh," I said, "Well," she's like, "I'll stay with them and help." I'm like, "Sure, come on, let's do it." I will tell you, those little girls were on it. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. And so then I was thinking, "Okay, we need to start a little bit earlier. What other things can we do?" So again, we are learning, we are a work in progress, but our
yeah.
main elementary initiative is, children's books. We started a line of women in industry children's books, and our first one was Lily the Lab Technician, talks about what it's like to be a lab technician for a chemical manufacturer.
Mm,
Marcella the Millwright was our next one, talks about what it's like to be a millwright for an LNG facility. And then we have Emmy the Estimator. So, yep, you're out there, what does it take to build a house? Well, you got to know material you need. You need to know how much it's going to cost. And then we have our most recent one was Camila the Caulker. This one's a very unique one because it is actually a real person. Camila the Caulker. She
okay.
lives in Australia. And, yeah, so that's a really cool one that we got done,
Is
and
that
it's
like
in
an
her
insulator or
no,
something?
she's actually more along the lines of sealing. Like sealing, she'll go in and like seal around whether it's a pool, whether it's bathrooms, whether it's tile, whatever it might be. She's a caulker. She goes in and that's
Okay.
her specialty.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And then we got a couple of more in the works. We have a process technician one and an instrumentation technician one that are going to come out in the next couple of months. And so that is like, our where we would, just whether we have a volunteer that says, "Hey, I want to, do something with my local school." Well, here, take our book, go in and do a story time, right? Or when we launched Camila the Caulker, we did a little workshop where girls, and we did it with a Girl Scout group, which was really cool. But
Mhm.
they first decorated a tile, like a little inspirational tile. And then we showed them how to use a caulk gun. And then they actually adhered it to a little piece of wood, and they caulked around it and we sealed it off.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool little workshop we did. And so, yeah, we're just kind of like just seeing what happens really, we never know what we're going to, and what I've seen in these last couple of years is like our industry partners will come to us and just say, "Hey, we'd like to do something for our local school. Can you help us put something together?" Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it could be as simple again as, getting one of our books off of Amazon. They're available on Amazon and just going into your local elementary school and doing a story time. One of the most important things, though, it was important to me in the books to really clarify and really help like the reader, the children understand what does this company do? Right? What
Mhm.
do they make? And then how does it translate right into their everyday lives, right? And so that's a really important part of the books because again, I really want our next generation to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and get excited, right? Get excited about coming and working for us one day.
Yeah, I think when you at the beginning when you were talking about power, I think that's an easy one, at least in my mind, even for like our local power system. We use all these natural resources. How do you get power from the natural resource to the plant to your house? And all those steps along the way, there's women in industry, there's men in industry that are,
Mhm.
fueling all of that and providing those services. And you're probably
Yeah.
driving around them every time you go to the grocery store, you're driving by someone who supports that industry, or driving past a refinery or something that is
Yeah.
heavy industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I would really want them to know. And one important thing that I always mention, and I'll do presentations. I'll do some like for this one's for the gals, like and it'll be for girls. And then I'll just go into the school and just talk to a welding class, an instrumentation class, a millwright class. And I always make it a point to tell them, you may not come out of your degree program or your certification program and go and work directly for like the major manufacturers, right? Like the
Mhm.
Exxons, the Valeros, like, it maybe, but if you don't get discouraged because these companies supplement their workforce with contractors, right? And so there look to those contract companies to kind of, help you get started and get your experience under you because I'll tell you more often than not, when they do open their permanent positions at those sites, who are the first people they look to? Right? The contractors
Mhm.
that have been there that know their site, that they know and that in itself is huge. And so I always make sure to kind of like help them understand that part as well.
Yeah, and I think the story about your husband saying that they're bringing people in, the electricians, I mean, that's not an uncommon story kind of throughout
Yeah.
the US from what I gather. You might start and process tech, but if you can learn something along the way, you can,
Hmm.
do HVAC or plumbing or electrical. You have to be probably willing to pivot a little bit, but definitely
Right.
the more education, the more job experience, the more valuable you're going to be. And definitely no
Absolutely.
shortage of work.
No, there is not at all.
What challenges would women face maybe that would be different from men, and kind of how might they overcome that? I mean, we'd like to say maybe there's not, but yeah, what
Yeah.
challenges are there? And then maybe what jobs do you maybe see women more better suited for than men?
So I think one of the most exciting things that's happened since the start of this one's for the gals, whenever I wanted to do an expo here in our area, I went to who I wanted to be the title sponsor for this first one and said, I really believe in this initiative. I really think it can have a huge impact in our area. And I know if y'all sign on, right, it'll just like everybody else will just come, right? And they believed in it and they said, yes, we'll be your title sponsor for this first one. And so as a title sponsor, you get to have one of your employees to be the face of the expo, right? And so we're putting her on billboards. We're putting her on all of our our program, our everywhere, right? Just kind of like spotlighting her everywhere. And so they chose a female millwright and she was a graduate from one of our local schools, got her 2-year degree and then had been with them for about 5 years at that point. So I was like super excited. I'm like, "Oh, yep, exactly. This is the stories right here we need to tell, hometown, went, to school, stayed here, bought a house here. She just bought a house." Like it was just great. The second one, our second conference expo, I at that first one, I already had one of our industry partners come up to me and say, "Hey, next year we are going to be your title sponsor." I said, "Okay, y'all got it." And so that next year, and they had told me who they were thinking of it being. And I know her, she's a process operator, and her story was a little different. Like she had been in like the banking industry for I think about 9ish years, was married, had 2 little girls, but decided she wanted something different, went back to college, got her 2-year process technology degree, and now is an operator for
Nice.
them. Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, she'd be perfect. I love it." And so when I announced to save the date, she texted me and she was like, "Oh, I'm so excited to see the next expo coming up. I probably won't be there. I just found out I'm pregnant with my 3rd baby and I'm due like 2 days before your expo."
Oh,
And I
no.
was like, yeah, and so but I was like, "Please let them still pick her." Like, who better to represent than her, right? And so a couple weeks later, she, texts me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, they just asked me to be the face of the expo." I told them I told them my situation, and they said, "Well, that's even better." That's great. Yes. And so I put a pregnant process operator up on billboards across the coastal bend, and yeah, she did have her baby a couple days or about a week or so before our expo, but we did FaceTime her during it and we said hello to her and everybody got to see her. But but that right there, right, was so important because again, I think that's another reason that women might shy away is because they don't feel like they can do both, right? Like have a family, be in these industries, be in these careers. And I'm like, you can. Your company is going to support you through every stage of life. So while she was pregnant, obviously she wasn't out climbing towers and turning valves, They put
Yeah,
her in a more administrative role for that part. But then now her baby is like over a year, almost a year and a half, and she's back to her job. And
nice.
I'm like, we need to normalize that, right? And so yeah, that was amazing. I mean, and that's what we need to see more of, and that's why I always encourage women to share your stories, share how you got there, the good, the bad, the struggle, how you made it through those different, phases of life because you can do these, careers, and even if you're in a shift work type of job, right? That doesn't have to be forever, right? There are other things that you can move on to and do, and I think we just again need to keep talking about it, keep creating that awareness, and just really letting them know that like you can do it, you can't have it all. You can.
Yeah. No, I see a lot of girls that or women that have, like you said, had kids,
Mhm.
have their maternity leave or whatever, come back, potentially more flexible shifts, whether that's like part-time remote or in the office. And I think if companies are taking the long-term view of an employee, and
Mhm.
that it has to be beneficial for the employee and the company, obviously, but if they're both willing to, work together, I think it can work, you know?
Absolutely. It really can. And that's even so myself. I have people ask me all the time, right? Because I still work, I started the nonprofit, I have kids, family, house, all this kind of stuff. And they're always like, Stephanie, oh my gosh, how do you do everything that you do? And I'm like, look, y'all, my life right now versus 10 years ago looks completely different. My boys are 21. They're kind of grown and gone. My
Yeah.
daughter is 16. She helps me keep it together. I'm like, my life looks different, right? And so, yeah, 10 years ago, there's no way I could have done any of this, right? Like, I mean, maybe, but it would have been crazy. And so I think we need to give ourselves grace through all of those stages of life, right? There are going to be times where, yeah, you can focus more on your career and going back to college and getting on major projects and all this kind of stuff. And then there's going to be times where, hey, you know what? Where you're at, you need to spend more time at home or being able to attend school events or doing this and that, right? And your life's gonna, go. It's not going to be one straight path. And so just kind of giving yourself grace through all of those periods because again, where I'm at in life right now, I do have more time to, be able to devote to the nonprofit work and to, work late nights and to be on this major project, right? And
Yeah.
again, life's going to look different, but your company will support you through every season.
Oh, you talked about you had 9 schools that you worked with before. How many schools or how many schools do you have? And then how many I mean, like, your sponsors and stuff probably come and go a little bit, but how many schools and how many sponsors? Maybe you have staff now. What does that kind of look like for
So we
your
don't have
organization?
staff. We
It's
we
you
don't
and
have
my
any paid
daughter.
employees.
Yeah.
We don't have yeah, me, my daughter, my husband.
Yeah.
No, I have a huge, huge network of volunteers that, so I'm more of the planner, right? Like and I really stayed really close to the vision I had. Because this could easily just it could grow and grow and continue to grow, but I'm like, "You know
Yeah.
what? I really wanna focus. This is my focus area. This is really where I feel will have the most impact." And so just really sticking to that vision because, there were people would come along and be like, "Hey, why don't you do this?" Or, "Hey, why don't you do that?" Or, "Add this or add that." And I'm like, "Nope, nope. This is the vision. We're sticking to it." And even when we go to different regions of Texas, right? It's a copy and paste. Like, we're gonna take what we're doing here, we're gonna pick it up, we're gonna copy it, we're gonna paste it in different areas and keep it pretty much the same, just different audience, right? And so that's
Mm,
worked really well for us as well. And so initially, yes, it was 9 schools that went to the trip in Galveston, which we still do. That is still part of our high school initiative. We still get girls to that Galveston Expo. We still, again, because it's really important for them just to get out and away and see different things. And now we incorporate like a group dinner. We incorporate like visits to our industry partners. Say if it's a midstream company and their headquarters is in the Houston area, they'll offer an opportunity for the students to go by their corporate headquarters, learn about all who they are, what they do, or if they have a facility over there, they'll give them a tour. And so we still do that event. And then our first expo here in the Coastal Bend. And I'll tell you, as I got started, even with that first group of 9 schools, I knew if I got one here, there was another one right here. And if I got that one, there's another one right there and another one. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this need is so great. Texas is so big, and I almost got like a little sad because I'm like, man, I really want everybody to have an opportunity. And one of my mentors, she's like, Stephanie, just start where you're at. Just start where you're at and it'll grow. And that is the best advice I could have gotten because now it's no longer like how many can I reach personally, or even this one's
Yeah.
for the gals can reach personally, right? It's for other people to see what we're doing and say, come help us do that for the girls in our community. Help us connect. And you don't necessarily have to start your own nonprofit. I've seen the smallest of initiatives create huge impacts. And so that's really what's happening now. And so our first expo here in the Coastal Bend. And so the Coastal Bend has over 50 high schools. Insane. But we're like, okay, we're going to do it. And so we invited, I think at our first expo, out of the 50, we probably had about I don't know if we made 30, because it was new and they were still trying to like, what is this? Because even so, you mentioned challenges earlier, right?
Yeah.
That first group I wanted to get to Galveston, the girls were not lining up. They didn't know what it was. They're like, "Women in industry, what is that?" And so I had to go into each school, give a presentation, share who I was, share my own story, kinda, like, get them excited, like, "Yeah, you wanna go on this trip." Now we're, like, at capacity all the time, but yeah, that was that part of that first, outreach and, like, just building the foundation, and so we outgrew our original venue from one year to the next with our expo here in the Coastal Bend. We had to move to a bigger
Right.
one. And so this past year in our 2024 expo, we had about 48 of the 50-ish high schools attend. We had
Oh,
almost
wow.
500 students and educators. Yeah, it's grown. It was really one of those things, build it and they will come.
So how many staff are, like, they're all showing up independently to this
So
expo?
the schools are like our volunteer base.
Okay. And they're sponsoring, they're finding their own resources to get people to go.
So for the schools, for our big expo, it's $20 per student and chaperone. And I went back and forth of like, should we charge? Should we not charge? But I really wanted the schools to have some investment because I felt if we offered it for free, then maybe
Yeah,
they'll show up, maybe they won't.
right.
And so, yeah, so it's $20. But again, it's a full day. They get breakfast, lunch, ton of swag, door prize. I mean, it's t-shirts, like they get a lot of stuff. And
Right.
so, but interesting fact is that the last couple of years, I've had all schools sponsored by an industry partner. So they'll cover their fees to attend because our industry partners will sponsor the event and then they'll be like, "Well, what else can we do? What else?" I'm like, "We'll sponsor a school." And so I tell the schools just transportation. That's all you need to worry about. Transportation, get them there and back. Same thing for Galveston. I'm like, everything else is covered. Your hotels, your conference tickets, your meal the night before, just get them to us and get them back home. And that has been a really great relationship with the schools that we've started, a really great model for us to go work to develop. Again, just and so for our workshops, yeah, they're free to attend. They don't have to pay or anything for those as well. And yeah, that's kind of how we've been kind of working it.
Yeah. I mean, you've kind of lined it out here, but if someone else is wanting to do this in their area of the country, what's
Mhm.
some advice that you would give to them? Same thing, like reach out to your high school. I mean, how do you kind of manage partners in the venue and some of the activities and stuff that you do with them once they get there?
Right. And so yeah, and I don't think there's like an easy answer because again, every area is different, industries different in, Central Texas versus the coast versus further South Texas versus North Texas, right? So
Yeah.
we're again still kind of learning as we're going, but at the end of the day, the vision is still the same, right? Create awareness, get exposure for girls and careers that nobody really talks to them about, right? And
Yeah.
so I guess my advice would be don't be afraid to start small. And like I said, it could be as simple as, your schools are having career fairs. I promise you that. Your schools want you to come
Or they
and
should be.
share. Yeah, or they should be. And if they're not, maybe
Yeah.
we need to kind of like help that area. But yeah, if they're having a career fair, show up and share who you are, what your company does, what you do, or again, get one of our children's books, go do a story time. One thing I've also kind of seen develop is, and as I mentioned earlier, is that, our industry partners, they want to do things like this. Like we want to be able to engage with that age group. But we just really didn't know how. Like, what do we do? How do we start the relationship? How do we do it? And that's it, right? Like again, just I even had one one counselor told me, she's like, "Yeah, I went up to, one of our local industry partners. I stopped by there the other day and they wouldn't let me in." And I'm like, "Well, you can't just show up. You know? You gotta
Yeah.
at least call and make an appointment, right?" And so, yeah, helping them again navigate that and figure out, how to work together and things that they can do. But yeah, my suggestion would be again, start like, check with your local schools. Do they have a career fair or career day or presentation that opportunity? Because I'll tell you, I have a lot of schools that come to me and ask me, "Hey, will you come do a presentation?" But anytime I've asked a school, like, "Hey, can I come do a presentation and share information about this, that?" Whether it's on my work side, right, talking about our project and helping get them learn about our project, or if it's about this one's for the gals and talking about, what we do, how it started, how it's going, I've not heard a no. It's always, "Oh, we'd love to have you stop by. We'd love to give information." And, so they would welcome opportunities like that. But again, it's not a relationship that really happens overnight, and I'll tell you, even the first, like, trying to get a group to that Galveston Expo, like, yeah, I ended up getting 9 schools, but I'll tell you, like, man, there was some schools, like, I literally had to keep, like, "Okay, this person didn't respond. Let me go check with this one. That one didn't respond. Let me call. Let me d" and then I was like, "Miss Superintendent." And then that one was like, "Are you serious? Here, let me get you in contact." And so again, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes time and just persistence, but I knew how important this conversation was and I did not
Yeah.
wanna give up, and I'm like, "No, I got this opportunity for y'all. It's free, like, all you have to do is get them there," and, just keep at it, because again, we're expecting, like, our educators to help, you know, our students learn about careers with us when the educators don't even know who we are or what we do, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but
There's, I know, like you said, a lot of industry partners too probably have their own kind of industry appreciation days
mhm,
where, they do some sort of public outreach. That I guess that would be one of
yeah,
my recommendations of if you're not comfortable kind of being and talking
yeah,
around people and everything, that might be kind of a first step too, is go with your
get
company.
involved.
Yeah, get
Yeah,
involved with your company's, current outreach stuff.
right. Yeah, whether it's a volunteer day at a, beach cleanup or a food bank or whatever it might be, right? Get involved in those activities as well because that's and so in my day job as I do community engagement, stakeholder engagement, and basically, they came to me and they said, Stephanie, find out what does our community need? Where can we best invest our time, our money, our resources? What do they need? And I was like, say less. Like, heck yeah, I could do that. And if
Right.
somebody if somebody would have told me, while I was in high school that I could have a career working for a company where my whole job and existence was to find ways to give back to my community on behalf of the company,
Yeah.
I would have been all over that, right? But again, and so I'm telling you, even whether it's in my day job or my nonprofit work, I love what I do. I am so blessed to be able to have a front row seat to all the change that's happening, to all of the, I mean, just to really help. I mean, obviously, specifically girls, because this one's for the gals, but just
Yeah.
our kids in general learn about these companies that are right outside their back door because, where I grew up 20 minutes from like, a industry town, manufacturers, oil and gas companies, nuclear plant. I did not know who they were, what they did, much less that I could ever go work there, right? And so again, I was that, "Oh, I gotta get out of this small town" mentality, and man, that's just not true, and I really felt if I would have known then what I know now, right? I could have stayed close to family and I could have stayed, been successful and stayed where I grew up. I grew up in a great small town, but I just, I didn't have that exposure. And so again, now that I know what I know, I'm like, all right, I got to tell these kids, okay, you don't
Y
have to move away to be successful.
Yeah, and you never know, you might be or when these kids show up, the first interaction they have with an adult that's prompting them, "What are you gonna do after high school?"
Yeah.
'Cause I know for myself, it was, you have that conversation with your parents like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" It's like junior, senior year, it's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
man, what am I gonna do? What's around here? What am I interested in?" And so, yeah,
Yeah.
exposure for sure.
And even so, you always have like those aha moments where you're just like, and I have them all the time because I give a bunch of talks, a bunch of presentations, and I don't like rehearse because all of this literally comes from my heart. I've lived it. I've and everything that I say, everything that I've developed has been from personal experience. And so I can talk about it all day long, right? And so back in, I guess 2021, when I was trying to, get that first group together and I was going and doing presentations at schools, and I asked this one group of girls if they knew anybody that worked at one of these manufacturing facilities, refineries, and a lot of hands went up. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I said, "Do you know what they do?" All the hands went down. And immediately I asked myself, "Do my kids know what I do?" I don't think so. Like, I have we ever like sat and had a conversation of what do you do in your job and what does your company do and what is it starts at home, right? What are we doing to again share what we do and who we work with and things like that. And so I was like, oof, okay. Yeah. I need to go and on my part to help as well. So it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us working together from again, starting at home to our education system to our industry partners. It's gonna take us all working together because we've been so siloed for so long, right? You had the crafts doing their thing, the apprenticeships doing their thing, the 2-year programs doing their thing, the universities doing
Mhm.
their thing. And to me, I'm like, I want everybody under one roof. We all have the same goal. We want to get our girls into the workforce. We need to start working together. That's kind of what my vision was. And I put it on a piece of paper and I'm like, all right, y'all are either gonna do it or we're not gonna do it. And boy, we've done it.
Yeah, who do you see at your expos that are most active in the community, whether that's like kind of a craft or an industry or because I mean, my impression was that, this was energy and chemical, manufacturing
Hmm.
kind of specific, but as we've talked, it's larger than that. It's just industry, heavy
Yeah.
industry in general. So who's being the most participating the most, I guess.
So when I started, I want to focus on construction, energy, manufacturing. Those were kind of like my top three. And then again, we weren't from this area, right? We moved here. We've been here 5 years now. This is year six. The maritime industry. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
what's that? You know?
Yeah,
And
longshoremen and
so
tankers and
yeah, so I had to learn, like, okay, what is the maritime industry? Like, what is, and so in these last several years, I was like, well, man, we really need to focus on that because the port of Corpus Christi, which is literally 20 minutes from where I'm sitting right now,
yeah,
is the largest port. I mean, is the third largest port for crude oil export in the world,
wow.
in the entire world. Right?
Yeah,
I think you have like Iran, Saudi, or the Middle East countries. There's two of them, and then Corpus Christi, Texas.
right.
And I even fact checked that because I heard it at a luncheon and I was like, "What?" I fact checked it too, and it did. It was it's the third largest port in the world for crude oil export. And I'm like, "Wow, when you live next to that, you have got to help your kids learn about those careers, right?" And so Port of Corpus Christi is one of our biggest supporters. Um, and I also wanted to again focus on everything from and it took me, and I'm gonna full disclosure, it took me forever to learn the difference between upstream, midstream, and downstream. It took me forever. Like, my husband broke it down for me once, and I was like, "Oh, man, if somebody would've told me that from the beginning, that would've been perfect." So, upstream gets it up at the ground, right?
Yeah,
Midstream gets it to, its processors, and then the downstream is what creates everything for us, like, right? It gets it
right.
into our clothes and our your gas and all, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so now that's how I explain it now, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
And, one time so even was it that first group? Yeah, it was that first group of girls, getting to Galveston. There was this one town, little bitty town, and I couldn't find, like, a visible industry partner, and I was like, "Man, all right, what am I gonna do?" And what I learned then, which has kinda started to change a little bit, is that, like, our industry partners really wanna focus, like, on their towns, like, where they're at, and but to me, I'm like, "Man," especially here in our area, we're so industry heavy. I'm like, "Y'all, we can't forget about our little towns that are, like, within 30 minutes," right? Because that's opportunity for those kids too. And
Mhm.
so I've been really, successful in kind of, like, helping bridge that gap as well and getting opportunities for more smaller rural schools. And so for this school, I was like, "Man, I don't see a visible industry partner," and it was our first time even talking about it, and so it was hard to, like, get, just any random supporter, sponsor, and so I'm like, "Man." Well, I pulled up a pipeline map,
Oh gosh.
and I said, "Whose pipeline runs through this county?"
Yeah,
And I'll tell you, I reached out to this one pipeline company, and I said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Would you be interested in helping?" Man, they responded, said, "They're in our service area. How many students? How much per student? And where do we send our check?" And
yeah,
they've been one of our biggest. Yep.
you drive down
Yeah.
the road and see their, number on a valve vault or a site or
Yeah.
something, just call that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, and so yeah, and I would say across all sectors, like, we're starting to see, I mean, we're supported by all of them. One thing I've found, one of our industry partners said something to me that I put out into the universe as much as I can because it made so much sense. And it's a midstream company, and kids don't really see them, right? Because they're underground, like they have a compressor station. It's like in the middle of nowhere, and so they don't really get exposure to those midstream companies. And so
Yeah.
she said, instead of doing these events, whether it's going to college recruiting fairs or outreach events, and thinking like we're going to come away with like two or three hires that are going to come work for us, we just want to develop the workforce. Whether they go and work for us, whether they go and work for, industry partner A, B, or C, we just want to develop the workforce. And I'm like, that's it right there. That is it, right? And so, because yeah, it's going to take us all working together. Because even this last year, I used to have one main sponsor, title sponsor for our expo. But this last year, I was like, this is a group effort and I want to show that we're all working together, right, to make this happen. And so I took that top sponsorship and I split it into 3. And so this last year we had Valero, AEP Texas, and Tesla is building a lithium refinery right down the road. So those were our top 3
Okay.
sponsors. And so I put 3 different women from each company on my billboard because I put 'em on billboards. And, yeah, and so I'm like, that's what I want, our community to see is like, "Hey, we're all working together. It's not a competition. It's not, we wanna help develop our workforce. We wanna get engaged with other communities." And that was really successful. It was, having 3 represented. But again, and I've also seen where industry has started, like, seeing this sort of engagement and investment in like that K through 12 audience in their schools and their education programs. It's not just philanthropic, that's workforce development.
Yeah,
And that
100%.
right there is the key, right? That right there. We need to stop, like just saying, "Oh, that's philanthropy." No, no, no. That you're developing your workforce because that is your future workforce right there. And
Yeah.
by the like my daughter, she's a junior now, but they get into 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they're having to pick dual credit programs, endorsements, pathways, or whatever they're calling them these days, and trying to figure out what classes they're going to take in high school to, like what are they going to be when they grow up? How do we expect them to know at that age if we're not talking to them?
Yeah, something, you'd think a student counselor would do, but I'm sure you've noticed this as well, is you might think that someone else is doing that work, and then you get in there and you start doing it, and you're like, where is everybody? Oh,
Yeah.
now, okay, so it's me." And then you start grabbing people and bringing them in, and
Right.
these schools, this industry partners are looking for people to come in and help.
Mhm. 100%, 100%.
Are you able to not track, but how do you determine the success of your program? Are you able to track like how many girls come in and how much outreach you do, and then directly correlate that to, oh, this person went on and got a job in industry? Is that something you're looking at managing?
Formally, not yet. It is something that I think is important because it doesn't stop when they graduate high school. It doesn't stop when they finish their certificate or their 2-year degree or their 4-year degree. Because then it's like, okay, I got this. Now what do I do? Right? Like, where do I go? What do
Right.
I do? Right. And
Yeah.
so again, how do we until they're out there and get that first paycheck, right? And then from there, like what support is out there to kind of like, I mean, companies have ERGs now that are, I mean, so many different things out there to help support them again as they're going through life and their career journey and all of this, right? And so aside from I mean, we do have our very first success story, which is really exciting, and I mean full circle, like full circle. She was part of that first group that went to Galveston. One of the first school I stepped into, like the first school I stepped into, she went to that Galveston Expo and talked to a group of female instrument technicians, got kinda interested in that, came back home, found a dual credit program, but it was at another school down the road. And the good thing about our schools here is that if they have, say, 15 seats and only 10 of their students want to do it, they'll open those 5 other seats to area school districts to send their kids to.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, that's really cool. And then, so yeah, her and her mom fought to get her into that program. And then her school bused her every day by herself just to go do this dual credit program. She
Wow.
graduated high school in 2023, continued pursuing her dual credit at our junior college or her 2-year instrumentation degree, and then got on as an intern through a contract company, right? We talk about those contract companies at one of our local chemical manufacturing facilities here, one of our largest ones here in the area. And so she graduated with her 2-year degree in December of 24, this past December. And then in January, rolled over to a full-time permanent employee. Because again, they opened up their positions. She qualified based on her experience, her education. She was able to apply, and they hired her as a full-time employee.
Nice.
And that is full circle. Like, oh my gosh, that was it right there, right? And, when she got the job, she called me and she was so excited and she's crying and I'm crying. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is it right here. This is exactly it right here." And, I asked her, I said, "What did your mom say?" She said, "I don't know, I called you first."
Oh, no. Gosh.
Oh, my heart. I was like, "Oh, this is it." And then people ask me, "Stephanie, how do you do all you do? How do you do that?" I'm like, "'Cause of stories like that right there." That right there. And then I was like, "Call mom, I don't wanna I don't wanna get upset." But that's it, right? And so and there's a couple other girls that, I still stay in contact with and I still, communicate with and still they still reach out to me because I wanna make sure that, "Hey, if y'all have any follow-up questions, please, I'm here, I'm accessible, I'm the one that answers my Instagram, answer my Facebook, emails, all that." But yeah, to actually start up some sort of to have some tools to kind of like, again, formally track that is super
Yeah.
important and something we do wanna develop here very soon. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah, and
for now, it's
I'm
more
not
of a
trying to
discipline.
ask you,
Yeah.
like, any gotcha question or anything, I just
No, no,
was
yeah.
thinking, like, "Oh, yeah, is that something that we're looking at as far as very specific, tangible,
Yeah.
result," you know? I could see where some of this, we put money into, and then it's like, "Hmm, where are the results? Where are we like, where's it
Yeah.
going? What's happening?" You know? It's great, but it's also fun to say, like you did, where this person went in on the first trip to now,
Mhm.
working in a full-time position as an instrument tech, so,
Right, and so even
yeah.
for some of our grants that, we get, they want measures, right? You have to,
Yeah.
how are you gonna measure your success, and what are you gonna do, and what does that look like, and this, right? It hasn't gone as far as, like, how many are actually going out into industry. It's more of, like, when our surveys are, at the beginning, we'll survey of them at the beginning, kind of like, the confidence level, how they kind of feel about exploring these even further, and so those sorts of measurements because I'm telling you, it grew into something, and I'm like, "Man, like, how do we" and that's the other thing too is, like and I say this all the time, I'm like, "I wanna grow the reach of the organization, but not necessarily the organization itself."
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, it's just information, it's awareness, it's, things like that, and so we'll see how long I can kind of, like, keep it like that.
Yeah. How much has social media played into that? I mean, that's seems like a common question, but
It's a necessary evil, isn't it? It
yeah.
is a necessary Yeah, because and people will tell me all the time, "Oh my gosh, I saw you on social, see here." And I'm like, "Y'all, I say when I make it big, I'm gonna get me a social media manager. That's gonna be the first thing I get." But, like, we have to meet the kids where they're at. And where are
Yeah.
they? They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on all these different things, And so yeah, we do have a social media presence. Like, is it I mean, it's not, like, huge, but that is how we get the majority of our information out, right? And again, it's just access, awareness, sharing resources. One thing we're going to add to our website, though, here very quickly is again, because one of our industry partners said, "Hey, is there anybody we have a presence in all these other states. Is there anybody doing something similar to what you're doing in these states?" And I was
Mm,
like, "Oh, okay, let me research that. Let me see." And there was a couple that I knew, but as I started getting more and more into it, I did find some other programs that are doing something similar. And so I kind of put a list together and I sent it to them. And I'm like, well, why don't I put this on my website as a resource? Right. And so I reached out to all of them and said, just introduced myself and said, hey, I'd love to link your website on our resources page. So, I mean, maybe somebody in Ohio wants to do something similar and you're doing that over there. Right. And so I've
mhm,
had some responses that say, oh, yeah, we'd love to. So again, like it's another thing because people ask me all the time, Stephanie, how can we help? How can we support? What can we do? And I'm like, exposure. It's just exposure. Like, just say our name in a room where it needs to be heard, right? Just tell people what
yeah,
we're doing. That's it. That in itself is huge for us.
yeah. These girls that are coming in and taking advantage of your resources, are they primarily, like, just like, let's say, a single daughter at home? Or are these people who their parents already work in industry? What's your kind of feel on where these girls are coming from and kind of like what's their awareness, home life kind of?
For the majority of our events, like our expos, going to Galveston, even the majority of our workshops, we kind of leave it to the schools to pick who they are going to bring. But we really emphasize like, hey, I really want to make sure it's the audience is like the girls that would get the most value of it out of it, right?
Mhm.
Not to say that, but we have limited capacity. And so it's like, so we do leave it up to the schools to decide who would best benefit from coming to the events. And so that could be, somebody that is in an engineering dual credit program, or it could be, a girl that has absolutely no idea what she wants to do. And so, yeah, it kind of varies like that. But at the end of our expo, I always say, all right, y'all had a great time. Y'all had fun. Go tell all your friends. Right. And then kind of
Yeah.
use them to like, hey, go tell all your friends. And, uh, but yeah, that's kind of how we've been, working things. But even then, I had a gentleman from the Texas Workforce Commission reach out to me. He said, "Hey, I happened upon your program. I see some of the things you're doing." He works in more of like a vocational gosh, what did he call it? So, but ensuring, and it was boys and girls. His program is for boys and girls, but just kind of I think at-risk youth pretty much, right? And
Sure.
ensuring they have the support and resources to graduate high school. And so he reached out and said, "Hey, I, kind of see what you got going on and would like to get, some of my students involved and stuff like that." And so that happens to me a lot, right? And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great program you have going on. Thank you so much for reaching out to me." And then how can I bring more awareness to, things that they're doing again because you don't know what you don't know. And even in our expo this past couple of years, we have our first year, we had education partners on one side, so that's your craft trainings, your apprentice, your 2 years, your 4 years, and then the other side was industry, so the employer side. And then the year after that, we combined them into one big expo, and I incorporated resources. Any sort of community resource, they may not need it now, but later in life, they find themselves in situations, we want them to know there's help and support. And so there was an organization called the Purple Door that helps women coming out of domestic violence situations. There's an organization called Esperanza de Tejas that helps women with diapers and formula. We'll bring in banks for financial literacy. We'll bring in organizations that have scholarship programs, tuition assistance programs. We even had a company and they reached out to me, but I was like, this is great. Yes, come. But they help first time homebuyers, right? Navigate the process. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, please, right? Because again, we want to get these students into high paying, stable careers, right? But we also
Right.
want to help them learn how to manage their money. And because they probably, for some of them, not all of them, are coming from a disadvantaged background and they don't know what they don't know and they don't know how to. And so we want to help create that space for our community resource partners to come and share the programs that they have as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's, the holistic approach, like you said, having,
Mhm.
you're looking for a long-term employee that's got stable footing under them for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Takes a village.
Yeah. Are there some of these industries that you can put your finger on and saying that they're, like, kind of growing or looking for crafts more than another? Like, from what you know, is there something that you would kind of push people in or make them more aware because of the job opportunities or the quantity of job opportunities? Or is kind of would you still stay all across the board and just see what their strengths are?
I I guess it does come down again to like your specific economy, like your industry, because like here in the coastal bend area, right? Again, huge exporter of oil. Starting to see a lot of different, like Tesla just opened up a lithium refinery. They're building right down the road. Starting to see a lot of alternative energy, like the energy transition and all the things that are happening with that. But I really feel across, like when it comes, because even like my husband works, at this huge facility and he'll come home and be like, "Oh, we lost another technician to, this industry partner or that one or this one," right? And they're moving,
Yeah,
And I think it's across the board, honestly. But I think if we again and I even tell our industry partners because I'll do presentations, whether again to introduce this one's for the gals to them or, or just in just conversations because I have longstanding relationships with quite a few of them that have supported us from before we were even this one's for the gals, right?
yeah,
But I tell them, I'm like, this next generation is different. They are different, right? They are looking to make a difference in this world. They want to work for a company that, you know, they could say, okay, your pay, your benefits, that's cool, but tell me what you're doing to make my world a better place and how I can contribute to that. That right there. And we need to show them how our industries do that, right? How these industries do
Mhm.
that. Because again, I mean, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting opportunity, and it's life changing career pathways for a lot of these, students that, again, especially in our smaller rural communities that are 15, 20, 30 minutes down the road from these large manufacturing companies, but yet either don't know they're there or don't feel like they have an opportunity. And I think it kind of goes back again to that mindset of we just need to develop the workforce, no matter who they go work for, right? We're
Yeah.
all working together, just develop this workforce.
Well, if people wanna get involved with you or, I'm sure donations are always welcome. We talked about before that, like to do, matching contributions to your organization, so I'll match, if there's other people out there and they match $2,000, then, I'd match that and give you $4,000. So where can they like meet up with you or hear more about you? Or I'm sure your website's a great place and then social and
Absolutely. Yes. So our website is www.thisonesforthegals.com. Again, if I would have known we were going to like grow like this, I probably would have shortened it a little bit, but I did buy an extra one. So you can also get there by typing in www.toftg.com. And we are across all the social media platforms. Again, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, trying to be on TikTok, but oh gosh, that's just a full-time job that, we're trying to do what we can do.
So if you
So
know
yeah.
anybody that's in social media, who
Yeah.
should reach out to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm not hard to find at all. And I would love to connect with anyone that again, not just on the work in the community or how can I connect with my local, students, things like that, but also women. But one huge initiative we have is sharing stories, right? Sharing stories of women from all kinds of different backgrounds that have made their way into careers that they never thought they would be in, right? Sharing those stories is so important because I like to say this one's for the gals was built on a foundation of girls can't be what they can't see. And if we're not sharing and elevating those women and their stories, where does that inspiration come from? Right. And so if there's anybody out there that wants to share their story, I would love to again connect with them and just help inspire the next generation. That's really what it's about. I really want girls, we have a place on our website. It's called WII Gals, which stands for Women in Industry Gals. And it's just a place for girls to go and read these stories and just get some inspiration because I really feel like, there might be a story on there that they can resonate with, that they can relate to and say, well, look at her, right? She did it. Maybe I can do it too. And that right there is huge.
If they should they reach out just to the website or email, or are
Yeah.
you on this one's for the gals across all social then? Pretty much?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, on our website, there's a contact page and it has my email, it has my cell number, it has drop us a line where it'll go directly into my inbox. So yeah, probably our website, the contact page, again, it has all of our information to reach out to me directly. Probably the best place.
Okay. Did we forget anything?
Ask me, Stephanie, why is this so important to you? Oh, and I did forget something. Okay, first ask me, Stephanie, why is this so important to you?
Why is this so important to you?
Because I'm that girl. I am that girl that I'm trying so desperately to help figure life out. I was a small town girl, came from a very humble home. My mom was a cake decorator for a local grocery store. My dad was an auto parts salesman. We lived a simple, simple life. It was amazing, but life is not simple anymore. And what got us by back then is not going to get us by now. And so, again, I just really want girls to know that there's so much opportunity out there that they can do it. And I really like to say, you can do hard things, and we're here to show you how. I also wanted to add in earlier when I was talking about how my life is different now, right? Okay, maybe you don't even have to ask me a question. I'm just going to say it and then you can throw it in if you feel you need to. Okay.
Okay.
Anytime I go and give presentations, because I had one school invited me to come and give a presentation to all of their girls from 6th through 12th grade, like 300 girls. And it was like four different rotations, right? And I told my story four different times. And I am so honored to be able to do that, for them to invite me in to spend time with their students, That is not lost on me. That is such a huge honor for me. But I always make it a point to tell girls that this is not an I don't need a man initiative by any means at all. At all. Well, when I said, I'm that girl, is because I left home and I went off to go find success in a big city because that's what I felt had to happen. But I found a husband. I got married very young. I had kids, twins, 2 boys, twin boys, and, then I got divorced, and I was a single mom with 2 little boys under the age of 1. I had no post-secondary education. I had no training and a very feeble resume, and these 2 little guys that are looking at me like, "What are we gonna do?" And so I went and learned AutoCAD, drafting and design. I got a 6-week AutoCAD certificate. It was like basic AutoCAD operators course.
Yeah.
I took that certificate and I walked into a job fair being held by Bechtel. No clue who they were. No clue they were one of the largest engineering companies in the world. My friend just said, "Oh, they're having this job fair. They're hiring. You should go in there." Okay. Oh, I walked into Bechtel's building in Houston with literally a 6-week AutoCAD certificate in one hand and just a willingness to learn in the other. And by some, I don't even know, powers, they offered me an entry level job that changed my life. And it opened my eyes to this whole world I never knew existed. And I feel like even if I did know it existed, I don't think I ever would have felt I could be a part of it. And that's why this is so important to me, right? Is because I found myself at 23 years old, like my life didn't look the way I thought it was, and I wasn't ready. I was not ready. And so that's what the main goal is instead of, when life doesn't turn out the way they think it will, instead of being scared like I was, I want them to be prepared, have a skill set, have a career, keep moving forward no matter what life throws at them. Okay. So to go back to my other thing I wanted to say about the I don't need a man initiative,
Yeah.
I did get remarried and me and my husband, we just made 17 years this past year and then we added a daughter, to our family. And so that's
Congratulations.
not what this is. Yeah, thank you. That's not what this is about, right? Because I cannot imagine my life without him and I would not have been able to do what I have done without him because as I was, working for Bechtel on major projects, I went back to college. I got my industrial engineering degree at the age of 38, having a family, raising kids, doing all these things and climbing this amazing ladder of success. Well, who do you think held the ladder? My husband, right? He was the one that was helping and supporting and encouraging. And, while I was in my room at the, 35-year-old trying to learn calculus, oh my gosh, he was shuffling kids to, baseball practice and birthday parties. And I was writing term papers on the weekend. And again, it was a season, right? It was just a little while, but he's the one that helped me. And I would not be where I'm at without him. So that's not what this is about. I really, like I said, I want girls just to be prepared, whatever life throws at them.
Yeah, I appreciate I don't talking to you, I don't get the impression that that is what it's about, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate you kinda coming out and making
Yeah.
that, forward facing more.
I do. And even whenever, people ask to write stories or put something in the paper or this and this, I make it a point to say, I do not use the term male dominated. Okay? I don't because oh my gosh, they put it out on Facebook, one of our local stories, and it just did not go well. And so I'm like, that's not what because again, we're not just talking about like your skilled trades and your this. I'm like, it's across the board, administrative, again, whether you want to go get learn a trade or you want to get your MBA or whatever, right? We're all across the board because there's opportunity for everyone. But yeah, I really like to highlight that because I want girls to know that you can have it all. You can do, you know, you can do the hard things, you can get through life, you can get married, you can have babies, you can then raise families, you can do all those things and be in these industries and be very, very successful and be happy. Great
Yeah,
place to be.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time today for coming on, chatting with me. Hope it was a good opportunity for you. Hopefully you get more awareness and more people that come knocking on your door because of this. But
Uh,
it's a pleasure to meet you and look forward to talking to you in the future. So If you ever need anything, then just reach out.
Thanks, Travis. I like I said, this is my favorite thing to talk about. Was probably I had a smile on my face the entire time, but again, I'm so humbled to like just be in this, to have a front row seat to like all this that's happening and all the support that's there. Cause even just telling the story of this one's for the gals and how it became to be and all the support that's there from industry partners and education partners and community, like even that, just telling that story itself, that has been huge for us because again, we want other people to see that and say, "Okay, we need to be doing that." Like, how can we do that here, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, thank you for the opportunity and, yeah, look forward to chatting with you later.
cool. Thanks, Stephanie.